Okay, JD, why don't we get started?
Great. Thank you, Melissa, and thank you to the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library for hosting the Imagine Buffalo Live Speaker Series, not only live today, but also available in their archive. And urge you to visit that, not only to see today's live presentation by Allison DeHonney, but also prior speakers. For example, we have Stephanie Tisdale joining us today, and she was our guest maybe 2 months ago. And it's actually her theme was really around her role as the chair of the board of Food and Fork Network. And today, Allison's going to talk about food because she sits on top of two businesses. It's really a private nonprofit partnership. First of all, she's the CEO of Urban Fruits and Veggies, LLC. She's also the executive director of Buffalo Go Green, and that is a nonprofit arm of her businesses. She said, I could go on forever. I'm not, but I am going to give you a little sense by introducing her. She's also a partner with Harmac Medical Products in the Bailey Green Revitalization Initiative. Okay. Along with that, she's the elected chair of the Buffalo and Erie County Food Policy Council. Okay. She serves on the board of the Erie County Farm Bureau. And it goes on and on. She was appointed to the Erie County Soil and Water Conservation District Board of Directors in 2021. Prior to her, kind of flexing her, what would I say, her entrepreneurial muscles with these business endeavors, she was an insurance executive in the private sector. She collaborates. I think it's one thing that I admire. I admire many things of Allison. One thing I admire is her ability to collaborate, and she has done so with the Buffalo Bills, Highmark, UB, Explore and More. I believe also the African Heritage Food Co-op and whatnot. So I know Allison as a person who gets things done, and in a field, food is food, clothing, and shelter, in a field that really isn't as equitable as I'd like it to be, or I think it is at times, or I act like. There are people within eyeshot of where I sit that are living in a state of food apartheid, or some people call it a food desert, but they're food insecure. So I'm honored to have her here today to help us just explore a little bit about food equity and right here in our own backyard, possibly as close as I hope she gets to her work right here on the east side of Buffalo. So Allison, if you want to take it away, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks so much, JT, and thank you for this invitation. I'm really excited to be here. I know this is a wonderful series. Just by the few introductory slides, we see how important these types of programs are regarding books and access to literature and access to information. So thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. Happy to share some information about Buffalo Go Green and Urban Fruits and Veggies. And I do have a few slides. If I should I pull them up now?
Sounds good.
So JD did talk about our kind of unique infrastructure, which is a not-for-profit and a for-profit sister companies working hand in hand to combat food apartheid and create greater access to healthy food options in our community. Pretty much the Western New York community. However, we do focus a lot mainly on the east side of Buffalo, specifically because that's where the need seems to be the greatest, but we are open to serving the entire Western New York population. A little bit about myself as JD.
Hey, I just want to interrupt, Allison.
Sure.
Just FYI, we don't see your slides yet. I'm not sure you're sharing.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Let me try to fix that. Okay.
Maybe our host Melissa could talk you through it if need be.
Let's see, I'm trying to, okay. Go back and
Melissa,
sorry
any
about
tips?
that. Well, I think I'll just keep going.
Yeah. I
Sorry
think it
about
was
that.
working out just fine.
Yeah, so we are, as I said, we're open to serving the entire Western New York population. Our goal is to just make sure that people have options, that people have education surrounding, number one, our beautiful Western New York growing season, and all the wonderful farms that we have within a 30 to 45-minute radius of the city proper. A lot of folks aren't aware that we have some amazing farms, and we like to highlight that. We partner with many of our rural farms because we are in an urban space. We don't have a large growing footprint, so it is necessary to partner with farms. We have fruits and vegetables prescription program. We have a mobile produce market. So we partner with clinics and physicians that are interested in food as medicine. That is something that is very near and dear to my heart. And I think one of our signature programs is our fruits and vegetables prescription program. It allows physicians, nutritionists, registered dietitians to have solid conversations with folks who are struggling with diet-related diseases about how food can possibly prevent and or mitigate some of the comorbidities that a lot of folks in our area struggle with. We have folks struggling with diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular issues, obesity. So we work closely with the medical professionals whenever we can. Currently, we are expanding that program. We're in talks about medically tailored meals. We are in talks about how we make our food system more equitable. And JD alluded to that in the introduction. And it's a challenge because food inequities are systemic. So whenever we're working on systemic issues, we know that that's going to need grassroots as well as policy work to really dive deep into what the systemic issues are and come up with solutions to eradicate what has been in place over time. One of the ways that we do that is we are instrumental in trying to influence the Farm Bill. Farm Bill comes up for renewal every 5 years. So once it's done for a while, impacts all of us, whether we are food insecure or not. It impacts labels, it impacts information, it impacts what those words could mean or should mean on the back of a box or anything that we purchase that has a label on it. And so that's important for all of us, no matter our economic status. We all should and sometimes want to know what we're eating. And those labels should be a good indication of what we're putting in our bodies, but that's not always the case. The other issue that affects us all are pesticides, chemical pesticides that are used to grow our foods, preservatives that are in our foods. We in the United States allow a lot of chemicals on and in our foods that are banned in Europe and Canada and places where they have tested some of these chemicals and found them to be very harmful to the human body. So All of those types of issues are in the Farm Bill, and that's the reason why all of us should be very interested. And I would encourage anyone listening to just take a look at it. Google Farm Bill 2023. It renews in September. And there's a lot of advocacy going on right now about what that farm bill is going to look like for the between 2023 and 2028. So that's quite of an expansive amount of time to have to deal with one policy and all the decisions being made around it. So in addition to that, one of the very exciting projects that we're going to be working on for the next 5 years is the U.S. Department of Agriculture is going to be putting regional food business centers around the country. And so Buffalo Go Green, along with NIASDA, which is the National Association for Agriculture centers across the country. They're regional, so there's the Northeast, Southeast, West, and I think Mountain State area. So we're going to be working with them, as well as Cornell, as well as New York State Ag and Markets, in an 11-state regional food business center, which is going to encourage folks to get into food business and into agriculture. We will be providing technical assistance as well as financial assistance. And so this is great for all the maybe mom and pop businesses that are thinking about getting into this space, or folks who are a little bit set up and just need that extra push to bring their particular business idea or innovation into existence. So more to come on that. The USDA is having a whole marketing campaign around it, so that should be exciting. JD, how am I doing on time?
Yeah, really well. I've thought up a couple questions. I just want to reiterate to our guests that we encourage you to ask questions, and you simply put them in the chat, and then Melissa will facilitate that. You want me to jump in and ask a question? Sure. Maybe transition to a little bit of dialogue?
Sure.
Yeah, that there's this, I don't even know what it means, but there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Farm Bill, which, is at this federal government level. I'm looking at it's a Wall Street Journal, and they are hosting the Global Food Forum on June 20th in Chicago, and it's the chairman and CEO of General Mills, and it's players in the food, industrial agriculture business. I don't think they're worrying about food insecurity in my city, community, neighborhood. If you could kind of speak to, if you had a magic wand, but it had to be put to reasonable use, what would you do locally to move us forward, like right now and over time?
So I'm gonna steal my answer from our farm manager, Ricky Fleming, who does a fabulous job for us. And that a similar question was put to him, and his answer was we would have 100 or more small urban farms. We know in Buffalo we have about 14, and the answer is to support smaller farming operations, so there's not that much of a strain on big ag, which perpetuates chemical pesticides, supply chain issues, tons of middlemen, farmers getting pennies on the dollar for what they grow. So we've morphed into this space of where we think the only answer is, big ag and large hundreds of thousands of acres of farming. And it doesn't have to be that way. Mm-hmm. And we've proved that during COVID, when we had serious supply chain issues, and majority of our urban farms here pooled together our crops and distributed them. Now, we can't solve all problems and we can't meet all of the demand. We know that, it's a big world to feed. However, if every local city, town had a local supported agricultural chain and food system chain, we could reduce the strain on large grocery outlets and big agriculture.
Let's dig into the the urban farm. I know you operate Urban Fruits and Veggies operates one at on Glenwood?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you said there are 13 others. In your kind of logo of private nonprofit partnership, private include, kind of implies for profit.
Right.
Can an urban farm be profitable?
Well, it's difficult because of scale. And so that is why, sometimes people say, oh, you guys do so many things. Well, we have to do that. We have to do a lot of things in order to be profitable and keep people employed. So there has to be something else to go along with it, in my opinion. And then profitable to you is different than profitable to me. So, but to raise a family, pay your bills, have a decent income, it's very difficult if you don't have acreage and you can't build to scale. So the models have to be set up in a way that's supportive for each individual small farm.
Yeah, thanks. And let's go on with the kind of like the partnership, it's private, nonprofit. How about public? I see you serve, whether it's the city, the county, there's some statewide organizations that you're a board member or chair of. What I don't know. I'll ask maybe two questions at once. What role does government have, and locally, let's say at the city and county level, are we doing a good job?
So I do believe the county is doing a good job. The county executive, he actually comes to meetings. He will say, what do I need to do? Where are the gaps? And one of the huge gaps was internet service in the rural farming community. And with the American Rescue Funds, he put that money to use for that. And those rural farmers are ecstatic about that. It's huge. Obviously, in an urban space, we don't have those types of challenges. But to answer your question, legislature April Baskins, she wants to work with us to see about creating an ag district that wouldn't be based on geography, because that would be very difficult in an urban space. So I feel like the county is doing a great job. They're always accessible. They come to events. I can't say enough about the county.
Yeah, well, that's encouraging, because I do know that just from your organization is a microcosm of how effective collaboration between the for-profit, the nonprofit, and if you bring the government into it as a constructive element or contributor, that bodes well. Where are you on a scale of 1 to 10 of optimistic being 10, 1 being pessimistic, that let's say 3 to 5 years from now, less people would feel insecure? And I'm assuming I'm born with such privilege. It's hard to me to fathom that there's probably young kids who go to bed hungry. That people wake up not really knowing whether they're going to have a good meal today, both good as in quantity, but also quality and stuff. I mean, it's hard to fathom. Are we going to make progress? Where are you on the scale 1 to 10?
Let's see. I will say a 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
We have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of support out there. We've been very fortunate. You know, we have great supporters, Highmark, you know, Key Bank. I mean, I won't start to list it because I don't want to leave anyone out. The Bills Foundation, but we have great support. And there are so many organizations that are concerned about this, and so many organizations that the pain that you expressed on your face of knowing that children do go to bed hungry, they have those same concerns, and they do put dollars behind those concerns. However, the problem is gotten so far out of hand.
Mhm.
And, you know, with the school situation, with COVID, again, that proved that children really are depending on schools for their meals, which should never be. That should be an added benefit. But that's the case in our city. So I'm gonna say a 6 and hope that if you ask me that question next year, I can say 7 or 8 and go up as that question continues to be posed to me.
Yeah. I'm going to pause for 1 second, ask Melissa if any questions have come through the chat. If not, I can chat all day long.
We do have a few questions.
Great.
So first question, what can the community or, you know, one individual do to help? Is it donating money or time? What can we do to help?
So I do get that question asked a lot, and I think sometimes individuals underestimate the power of their ability to help. We have folks who come and help, like plant seedlings or transplant or help us on the farm. We have people volunteer at farmers markets. And then of course we do have people who do send money to support our efforts. And all of those things are important. And I never underestimate the power of one person volunteering, because if one person volunteers and they tell someone that I volunteered there, it spreads and people post things on Facebook, and then that turns into funding. So one person's care and concern and desire to support our efforts is huge. And I don't think anyone should underestimate that. Again, going back to JD's question of what can we do locally, all of those things help to strengthen the work locally.
So if someone did want to get involved, is there an email address or a website they could visit that you could share?
Yeah, they can go to buffalogogreen.org. And if you try to contact us, we will get back to you. We get lots of emails with folks asking questions or about our schedule, things like that.
Great. And what happens during the summer when, you know, kids are not in school? How are some of them being fed?
So there are several, the county and the state, they run a program where if there are any, like at camps, or if you're doing anything with youth, you can get free lunches. Summertime is a huge problem because there's just not that steady consistency of Monday through Friday. And then some of the schools are even do like a take home on Fridays, so there'll be some food at home over the weekend. So summertime is a huge issue, but there is, and we'll post it on our website. I'll make sure we get that posted over the next day or two, where folks can go to see how they can help with those distributing lunches. And there are some breakfast options, I believe, coming on board for people who are concerned about the children over the summer.
And recently in the Imagine program, we heard from Scott Scanlon, and he talked about Erie County's low marks in New York State health rankings. Do you see any improvement in health from your group's efforts?
You know, it's so interesting you say that, because we're working on some technical tools to help measure our outcomes, because, oh, we think we're doing a great job and people tell us we're doing a great job, but we'd really like to have some data behind that, and working with clinics. Over the past several years, it's time for us to start seeing some hard numbers on that. but I don't see where we're climbing out of that, because it was a few days before the tragic shooting at Tops last year that report came out that Western New York was one of the unhealthiest regions in the entire state. And I don't know what we're really doing about that, like hard strategic plans to combat that, all that came out of that report.
AD, those were the questions that I received.
Well, that is going to be a challenge. Just an aside, I literally over the weekend finished an amazing book. It's 12 years old, and it was a New York Times bestseller called Omnivore's Dilemma. And there's hundreds of billions of dollars of capital invested in an unhealthy food system. It's the equivalent of the oil and gas industry. And I'm not, I'm a pragmatist really in many ways. So it's an uphill battle. I hope to hell we're at a 7 next year, Allison. I'm going to go to, I think of urban fruits and veggies. It's just like, dude, I need to think of these organizations to remain optimistic and then involved and helpful. Like people have asked, how can we be helpful? I mentioned earlier the African Heritage Food Co-op that's been up and running and is going to get a big boost with their own building. The Providence Farm Collective is mind-blowing. Right here in Western New York, all this stuff, Mass Ave Project, MAP, it's just amazing. What's going on out there that I or maybe some of us don't know? Those are 5 or 6 that anyone, you just how we go down rabbit holes on internet searches these days. Go down that rabbit hole and you'll feel good. Yeah. What else is going on out there that I don't know that I can ride my bike by, or I can send some money to, or just feel good about?
So first I'll do a shameless plug for us, and then I'll talk to you about why else we should be optimistic. So we are currently in the process of building our holistic wellness and agricultural education center. We purchased a parcel of land with 3 buildings, and we've started renovation. We're going to have an indoor farm. So we'll have controlled environment agriculture instead of expanding, doing an additional outside farm, even though we are expanding that as well to Zenner and East Ferry. That will be our second soil location. There's prior 6 vacant lots that will be turned into an all greenhouse farm. And then we'll build 4,500 square feet of hydroponic farm at our wellness center. But one of the reasons why I feel so optimistic is because I work with so many undergrads, masters, and folks going for their PhD and want to work in masters in public health, environmental justice, and food systems work. And these young people are brilliant, and they're so passionate, and they're so invested in making sure that this food system gets changed and is more equitable and is for the people, and looks like something where food is not a privilege, it's a right. And so I'm just so encouraged by these young folks, and that's something that we can all be excited about.
Yeah, well, that at my age, man, I like, it's all about the kids, and I'm glad to hear that. I know you're really active at UB, and I'll shorten it up, but the UB Food Lab has recognized Allison as one of their Black Women for Food Justice, and it's so when I said earlier that it's an honor to have you here, I mean that. If everyone hasn't been out to I mentioned the Bailey Green revitalization initiative that Allison's a big part of. That's where it's the area around where she just told us about her most recent project. And there's stuff going on out there.
Yeah.
food. It is, it's, all right. I'm gonna end it with, and any more questions, Melissa?
Nope, those were all the
Okay.
questions we got.
I'm gonna end it in by saying, really an honor to have you, Allison, and all of our guests as well. Thank you so much. And just to let you know, we're here. Why I say we, the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library, the Imagine Speaker Series is here every Tuesday at 12:30. As I mentioned earlier, if you joined us a little late, these sessions are all archived as well. Go see Stephanie Tisdale's from about a month ago or so, because what we try to focus on the 5th Tuesday of each month, not of each month, of about 5 months a year, the vagaries of 365-day-a-year calendar is in these 5th Tuesdays, sustainability, whether it's environmental or social, because really is my city, my community, my neighborhood, is my society sustainable if people are going to bed hungry? Like, really? So we touched on the S today. Hopefully you'll join us on the next 5th Tuesday. I think it's in the fall, maybe October, and we'll be right back at sustainability. So thanks again, Allison. Thanks, everyone.